What would your life look like if fear had no power over you? Not managed or tamed, but destroyed, gone, dead. Imagine waking up every day with no hesitation, no second guessing. There's no voice in your head telling you you're not enough. I face that voice more times than I count. Fear of failing my kids, fear of not making enough money, fear of just being alone. But here's what I've learned. Fear is not the enemy, surrender is. Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, said that fear is one of the greatest barriers to success. And today we're going to take his wisdom and use it to kill fear once and for all. Let's get something straight. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is instinct. It's ancient. It's wired into our biology to protect us. But fear was never meant to lead you. It was never meant to be your counselor, your decision maker, your guide. That's what most of us allow it to become. We let fear grab the wheel, and then we wonder why our lives feel stuck in circles. Fear has shown up in two big ways for me. First, as a dad raising two daughters on my own, the fear of failing them, the fear of not providing enough, the fear of just making the wrong decisions and moves and just watching them pay the price for that. And the second, when I started creating content, putting myself out there on YouTube as a single dad, sharing my stories and my struggles, it honestly did terrify me at first. What if people laughed at me? What if nobody even cared? What if I failed in public? That hesitation nearly stopped me before I even began. And maybe you felt the same thing too. Different situation, same fear. Fear shows up when you step into the unknown. A new challenge, a risky decision, something that threatens your comfort or your control. But that's not weakness. That's your brain doing exactly what it was wired to do. The problem isn't feeling fear, the problem is letting it run the show. I was worried about judgment and failure, but the truth hit me very hard recently. It wasn't the fear itself that could ruin my life. It was me doing nothing because of it. Inaction is the real enemy. It's the missed opportunity, the dream you shelf for someday, the silence when you should be speaking. Most people are waiting for fear to disappear before they even make a move. They're waiting to feel brave, but that moment never comes. The reality is simple. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to act while the fear is still there. And the people who can create real change in their family, in their careers, in their lives, they feel fear too. The only difference is that they move anyway. The more you act in the presence of fear, the smaller it becomes. Every time you move forward, when your chest is tight, your hands are just shaking, you send a message to your brain. Fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means this matters to you. The first time you do something scary, whether it's having a hard conversation with somebody, launching a new idea, or speaking in front of others, it will feel overwhelming. But the second time, it's just a bit uncomfortable. By the 10th time, it starts to feel normal. And by the 100th time, it's simply who you are. That's how confidence is built. Not by waiting to feel fearless, but by stacking small actions on top of fear until it no longer controls you. I've seen it in my own life. The first video I published felt like I was jumping off a cliff. My voice shook, my hands were sweating, and I almost deleted it, but I uploaded it anyway. And keep in mind, I'm a huge introvert. The next video, a little easier. Now creating has become a routine, not because fear disappeared, but because reputation rewired my reality. That's the key. Fear doesn't shrink with time, it shrinks with exposure. The more you lean into it, the less power it holds over you. Fear is the master storyteller. It doesn't just whisper, it scripts entire movies in your mind. Movies so real, you start to believe them. It tells you you're not ready, not smart enough, not talented enough. That if you try, you're gonna fail. That if you speak, people will laugh. That if you chase that dream, you're gonna crash and burn. And because fear often uses your own voice, you accept it as truth. But it isn't truth, it's repetition. A story you rehearse so many times that it feels real. I live this. I used to imagine worst case scenarios constantly happening, messing up with my kids, failing in front of the audience, losing everything I have built. And the more I replay those scenes in my mind, the more my body reacted like they were already happening. My heart started racing, breath shallow, energy gone before I even took the first step. That's how fear wins. Not with facts, but with repetition. But here's the shift. If fear is built by repetition, so is confidence. If fear is a story, you can write a better one. You can visualize yourself speaking and being heard, taking the risk and landing on your feet. even failing and still rising stronger the next day. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and memory. So, if you can rehearse disaster, you can also rehearse victory. This is the battlefield, not out there, but in here. And the moment you stop letting fear write the script and start writing your own, you take back control. Fear grows in the dark, in silence, in avoidance. The more you run from it, the bigger it's going to get. The more you try to outthink it, the louder it becomes. Because fear doesn't shrink with time, it shrinks with exposure. One of the simplest ways I train is by taking cold showers, for example. Everything in me wants to hesitate, to wait, to avoid it. But the moment I step in, my body panics, my mind screams, and then after a few seconds, it calms. I adapt, and the fear is gone. That exposure, you face what your mind exaggerated, and then suddenly the fear faded. Life works the same way. It's not about being fearless, it's about being willing to feel the fear and still step forward. Willing to look at uncertainty in the eyes and say, you're not the end, you're the beginning. This is how fear dies, not with avoidance, but with exposure. You lean into the things that terrify you. You practice the uncomfortable until it becomes familiar. You speak even when your voice trembles. Show up even when your hands are just shaking. Launch the project even if it's imperfect. Ask the question even if you fear the answer. The people you admire, the leaders, the creators, the fighters, they didn't start fearless. They started scared. But they kept stepping into the storm until the thunder couldn't shake them anymore. If you really want to kill fear, you have to go to its source, which is of course your mind again. Because fear doesn't start in the world, it starts with your thoughts. Fear whispers lies. You're not ready. You failed. You're not good enough. And because that voice sounds like your own, you will accept it. But just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. Here's what changed everything for me. I realized I'm not my own thoughts. I'm the one who chooses which thoughts to keep. When fear says, you fail, I'll answer, maybe, but I learned. When it says, you're not enough, I would say, says who? That shift turns fear voice into background noise. And just like muscle, the more you train your mind, the stronger it gets. Or think of it like a skill. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This isn't about fake positivity, it's about discipline. Athletes train their bodies, musicians train their hands, and you have to train your mind. Affirmations that remind you of your strength, visualization that locks your focus on success, repetition that makes courage your default setting. I tell myself every morning, I face fear and I will move anyway. I don't think, I expand. And then I back it up with action because my brain learns by watching me. Every time I move, despite the fear, it records. This is who we are now. That's how identity changes. That's how fear loses control. You don't destroy fear with feelings. You destroy it with discipline. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline is the steady flame. It's what makes you act whether you feel like it or not. And that's what kills fear. Removing the negotiation. No more debating with yourself. No more should I or shouldn't I. It's already decided. For me, that looks like routines. Cold shower in the morning. Not because I love it, but because it trains my nervous system. Hard conversation when they're needed. Not when I feel ready, but because I know they matter. Showing up for my commitments, even on days I just rather hide and chill. Every time I follow through, fear loses a piece of its power. Because the more consistent you are, the more inevitable you become. Picture this, your alarm goes off, you rise. The task is hard, but you do it anyway. You walk forward in spite of it. That's discipline. That's how the fearless are built. Fear doesn't just steal your moment, it steals your legacy. Imagine this, you're at the end of your life, lying on your deathbed. Around you are the ghosts of every dream you did not pursue, every risk you didn't take, every version of you that could have existed. And all they ask the same question, why did you let fear decide for you? That image haunts me, not because of fear itself, but because what I could lose if I obey it. My daughters won't remember me for playing safe. They're going to remember me if I show them how to live boldly, to try, to fail, to rise, to grow. That's what people don't realize. They're not choosing comfort, they're choosing regret. They think they're playing it safe, but really, they're bearing their greatness. No one builds statues for people who avoid failure. The world is moved by those who felt fear and acted anyway. Legacy demands discomfort. It demands sacrifice. It demands that you decide what matters more, the opinions of others or the opinion you have of yourself when your time is up on earth. So ask yourself, will your story whisper with regret or roar with courage? If fear is a liar, your routine is the truth teller. Because it's not just mindset that slays the fear. Start with discomfort. Do something every morning that makes your heart beat faster. Move your body, lift, run, walk, whatever it is. Motion destroys stagnation, and stagnation is fear's playground. Speak power into your mind. Say out loud who you are becoming. Your brain listens to that, and then act in a way that proves it true. And finally, win the first battle of the day. Make your bed. Finish the task you don't want to do. When you stack those wins, you build momentum, and momentum kills fear before it takes root. Fear doesn't vanish on its own. It dies because you stop feeding it, because you stop bowing to it, because your daily action leaves no room for it to live. And if you're getting value from this right now, tap that like button. It helps more people find this message and start building courage for themselves. Thanks for watching.